So daffodils are one of the earliest blooming bulbs in our garden and pretty much anywhere in the Midwest. They're going to bloom as early as February all the way through April. You think of a normal daffodil, you think of the yellow, trumpet, but there's so much more. There's a lot of variety. There's white, orange, pink, green, and different mixes of petals, and they're really unique. They're also wonderful because they have a toxic sap that the deers will not eat. So if you're worried about pests, deers, rabbits, squirrels coming in and eating your bulbs like your tulips, they've all gone in the past, daffodils will not do that. They'll leave them alone and you'll be set. So a daffodil is like a typical bulb. When you plant it in the fall, you're going to start with just this brown section you see here. You can plant it pointing up, and in the spring it'll produce its beautiful long stem, its leaves that collect the sun. It's going to shoot out lots of roots to collect nutrients and water. And then eventually you'll get to the bud, and someday you'll get to this, which is our beautiful daffodil bloom. You've got the petals around the edges. You've got always 6 for a daffodil, usually alternating, kind of like moving up and down. And then the central corona that protects all the reproductive organs for the daffodil. So daffodils are separated into 14 different divisions, classifying by mostly the shape and number of blooms. So the way the petals are, whether they're reflexed away from the corona, the number of blooms per stem, all that variation gets classified into 14 distinct groups. Here at Powell, we have a display that shows off each of the 14 with a representative. So here we have Division 3, which is with its much shorter central corona compared to the length of the petals. And then this is a Division 5, Triandrous, so it's got multiple blooms per stem. The petals, you can tell, are slightly reflexed away from the central corona, and it actually is quite aromatic, very fruity and floral scent. To make sure your daffodils bloom as best as possible, first is you have to think about this when you're planting them. You want them to be in full sun, which can be under deciduous trees because when they're blooming, there's no leaves. You also want good drainage. They don't want wet, soggy roots and bulbs. Then, as the season goes on, once the blooms are done, leave your leaves. Leave them until they wither and yellow and brown because they're still collecting energy and photosynthesizing for next year. If you want your blooms to continue to look as good and not look fried and like kind of faded away, as soon as the bloom is done, cut just the top off, leave that whole stem for more photosynthesis, but it'll keep your garden looking fresher longer. So basically, make sure you plant them in the right spot, leave the leaves, and you can also fertilize with a low nitrogen fertilizer after the blooms. Our daffodils are blooming here at Powell March through April into late May. But if you come in late March for our daffodil days, you'll see our division containers out on display showcasing all the different varieties, and you can enjoy our digital tours.